Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Right before you is the new Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz got the coveted role, but she did not get this coveted role without some controversy. See, it seems as if the powers that be thought that Mrs. Kravitz was a little bit too ethnic, too dark, too urban. And you may be wondering, too dark? Well, yes. Let's get into the story and see what this controversy is all about.
It's in the Batman, and this was not her first time trying to break into this whole universe on the big screen. She had told The Observer that her attempt to audition for a role in The Dark Knight Rises was rejected. She was told she was actually too urban for the part. Can you imagine that? Now, during a 2015 interview with Nylon, she said the role she was seeking in The Dark Knight Rises was a small one, and she couldn't even get in the room because the film wasn't, quote, going urban for the role. She said at the time, she said it was like, yo, what does that have to do with anything? I have to play the role like, yo, what's up, Batman? What's going on with you? So she said being a woman of color and being an actor and being told at that time that I wasn't able to read because of the color of my skin and the word urban being thrown around like that, that was what was really hard about that moment.
Yeah, I hate the word urban in any context, but especially in that context because it means you're too much of a sucker to say black. Right? Like, just say, hey, black isn't what we're looking for at this time.
Right. So shout out to her, though, because they are saying that she's amazing as Catwoman right now in the Batman. Y'all gonna?
Okay, so you heard the Breakfast Club talking about what happened in an interview that Zoe gave. And Zoe tried to do damage control. She went to her IG stories, basically, and posted this letter, stating that I was not told I was too urban to play Catwoman. You get that right there? No one said the role was Catwoman. They specifically stated it was a smaller role. So basically what Zoe is trying to do right here is that she's trying to do damage control because eventually it seems like the producers came around, whoever the powers that were, had a change of heart, and they casted her. So she's not trying to make them look bad or seem as if though they were racist in their statement. And she goes on to say here, I do not know who told me that. Basically, she's saying the same thing in which they said. But this letter right here is a major fail because she contradicts herself. And basically, she's admitting that for years, she was told, Zoe Kravitz, the mixed girl, was told that she was too urban, basically too black for certain roles in Hollywood. Now, I have spoken about this issue quite often, and it seems like I get into a lot of banter and back and forth with black people who just cannot believe that a biracial or light-skinned person can be considered too black in Hollywood. What they fail to understand is that the white mentality and the black mentality see things very differently. So let me ask you a question. This actress right here, by looking at her, how would you describe her? Would you describe her as light skin or dark skin? I would definitely say light. But however, would you believe that there are some people who do not see it that particular way? Would you believe that there are some people who described this actress, by the way, she's in a porn movie, and She's in a site called, is it Black? However, look at how they described her. Dark skin and delicious. Alana's scorching hot body will leave you wanting so much more. I'm going to stop right there. You can read the rest. But they describe this obviously biracial actress as being dark skinned. Now, she's in a scene with this particular white actress. And I guess you can see that compared to the white actress, she would be considered dark skinned to white people. However, no black person would ever describe this woman, this light-skinned biracial, as being dark-skinned. However, being raised around white people, it does not surprise me that they would categorize her as being dark-skinned. So therefore, with this whole thing with Zoe, now this is white here. She's obviously white. But with this whole thing with Zoe Kravitz, to a racist mindset or to a prejudiced white person, there is no difference between Zoe Kravitz to the right and Armani to the left. I know that black people have a very difficult time comprehending this because they're thinking colorism and they're thinking that what proximity towards whiteness will grant a light-skinned favor. In most cases, no, it does not. This is something that black people have in their minds. And believe it or not, a lot of light-skinned people actually know this is not true. They know that proximity towards whiteness is a myth. It's not true. Now, that's a very layered topic that I'm going to have to do another video on. But yes, it is a myth. The vast majority of successful actors, both male and female, in Hollywood are the darker hue. See, black people see the difference right here. They would definitely say Zoe Kravitz is light-skinned, Normani is dark-skinned. But to white people, they do not see a difference for the most part, particularly if they're racist or prejudiced, which is going to be the vast majority of them. To them, both of these women here are not white. So therefore, that will push them out of any type of favoritism. They would treat them both the same, pretty much. So it does not surprise me that they called Zoe too urban for many roles, in which she admit, too urban, i.e. too black, not white. She's just not right for the role. So I just think that people need to refigure their thinking, so to speak, or kind of don't be so surprised. Don't be surprised at all when you hear things like this, that someone who you thought had favor in Hollywood does not really have the favor that you thought they had. That someone who you thought was a light-skinned actress could be considered dark by others. Someone who you thought that, well, she has it easy, she's going to have an easy climb to the top. No, not at all. That's something that many black people have in their minds. That is something that many black people believe. Being raised around white folks, I can tell you, their mentality is completely different. They see things differently, even react differently. Zoe Kravitz or that other light-skinned actress are not like this one here. They're not white. So, therefore, this whole notion that she's not going to face any type of prejudice, discrimination, or racism is foolishness. It's nonsense. It's a fairy tale and a fantasy at best. And as I've said before, light-skinned people know this. They are aware of that. It just seems like to me that it's darker-skinned black people who want to push this narrative of so-called proximity towards whiteness. Speak to white people and ask them speak to light-skinned black people and ask them, have their light skin granted them much favor? Vast majority would tell you no. But you're believing otherwise. And you're perpetrating this false notion. It keeps going on, feeding into other generations who are believing that. And the bad part about that is sometimes it creates this animosity between light-skinned blacks and dark-skinned blacks. Darker-skinned blacks believing that lighter skins have it easier. And lighter-skinned blacks feeling their resentment and anger and hostility from darker-skinned blacks, believing in this false notion. So, yes, Zoe Kravitz is considered too urban, too dark, too black by many in Hollywood. Just like she's going to be considered that way by the vast majority of white people who are not stuck on colorism per se, but are more stuck on racism. Remember, colorism is a caste system within the black community where black people grants favoritism to lighter-skinned blacks over their darker-skinned counterparts. White people do not necessarily grant favor towards lighter-skinned blacks. In fact, throughout American history, they actually wanted nothing to do with them. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Sin Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.